right. Ed, where are the deals?
Well, I think this is just more evidence that these deals aren't really deals at all. Whether it's a deal with Canada or a deal with the UK or a deal with China. I mean, every time this happens, we all get very excited, and then we go look at, the terms of the agreement, of which there are usually none. And then we all kind of look up at each other and we go, hold on, there's no deal here. And this is just a press release that says we have a deal, but where actually is the deal? So that's what a lot of us have been saying for months. The counter argument has been, this is 4D chess, this is a negotiating tactic, but now we're reaching July 9th. The 90-day pause is coming to an end, and here we are. We have no deals. We're in no better position than we were at the beginning of April when we started this whole charade. So now we're reaching a point where either one, there was no 4D chess, or two, if there was 4D chess, it didn't work. So we're, same position as before. Tariffs still on, inflation's still coming, prices are going to rise. And that's exactly why we saw what we saw from Jerome Powell and the Fed this week. And that's why he maintained rates, despite Trump's insistence on bringing them down.
Yeah, and the Fed's still not moving. Here's what the Wall Street Journal is arguing on what might get the Fed to change rates. Tariffs impacting consumer prices. Quote, if consumer prices shoot up this summer, the Fed will likely stay on the sidelines longer. The labor market would have to sputter convincingly to prompt rate cuts. But if a widely anticipated tariff-driven price punch turns out to be a damp squib, the Fed could be in position to consider cutting rates sooner, especially if the job market cools further. Ed, what do you make of that?
Yeah, my view on this is Jerome Powell is waiting until September at the very earliest. Some people thought he was going to cut rates in June. Some people thought July. I think he's waiting for September because I think he wants to make an informed decision. And, this is the part people don't seem to understand, but I think we have to emphasize it. If you're looking at tariff-induced inflation, the reality is we don't have the data on that yet. I mean, we got this good inflation report in April and a decent report in May, but neither of those reports say anything about the tariffs that were implemented in April, because we're not going to see an impact for at least 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe longer. So until then, until the fall, basically, none of this data is relevant. And that is why I believe Jerome Powell is waiting. I think he's going to wait till at least September. I think he wants relevant data that actually reflects the current tariff environment, and that data is not going to come until the fall.
When is this going to hit, John? When are consumers going to see this, feel this in their wallets? We keep talking about empty shelves on the way. When's that going to happen?
Well, we don't know, right? Because as Ed points out, these agreements are not really full agreements. We haven't reached a point where we have clarity on where we're headed. But what we know is that the economy is not as strong as it was, and that when tariffs do start to really take hold, and I do think, as Ed suggests, it's toward the fall, that's where things are going to get increasingly concerning. And it's a big problem for Donald Trump politically. We've been talking about the economics here, but we should understand the new Economist YouGov poll showed that at the start of his administration, Donald Trump had something like a 45% approval rating as regards handling of some of these core economic issues. It's now down to 35%. If indeed you have a tariff tremor that goes through, it doesn't have to be empty shelves per se, but if people actually start to feel it, that's going to become a serious political issue going into a fall when we have off-year elections in Virginia, New Jersey, other places. And if I can offer one last thing, I think we have to read deeper into what Jerome Powell is doing here. Jerome Powell doesn't have all the space in the world to lower rates, right? He has gotten rates to a point where he does have some flexibility. If something bad happens, he can take them down. But if he were to follow Donald Trump's advice and just lower them every chance he gets, at a certain point, you lose that space in which to, if you will, jumpstart the economy. And so I think that what Powell's doing here isn't just responsible on the basic level. What Powell is doing here is ultimately the only approach that anybody reasonable could adopt in a moment where you don't know what's going to happen next. Because that not knowing what's going to happen next is, the space in which Powell either wins or loses his ability to affect the economy. If he's already given away his ability to do that by lowering rates, he can't address it in September or October or November.
And just think about what Powell's been doing for the last few years, trying to orchestrate a soft landing after COVID and
That's
all
right.
of the upheaval with that. It has been done with real deftness, and it's been successful. And to have this thrown in, you got to imagine that he doesn't want to disrupt it further, all that hard work.